I bought a camper van but made a big mistake and now I can't sell it. What an awful situation, losing so much money on what was meant to be a top of the range camper van. We will discuss that today, but look at this watch. How much do you think that this watch is worth? It's a Tag Heuer Carrera. I will come back to that, and the question is relevant to a conversation which we're going to be having today about camper vans. We will see. Anyway, far too many buyers do not know that they're making mistakes, and these mistakes are being further compounded by others who also don't know, as they reinforce people's opinions with amazing, brilliant, great. No, no, no. People are being fooled, led down the wrong path, and spending silly money, too much money for what they're buying. I've been seeing a van pop up on social media all this week, and that further proves this point, which I'm going to discuss with you in a minute. But if you have a budget van with cheap parts, components, fixtures and fittings, and you paid a budget price for that van, then that's absolutely great. So long as you knew that it was a basic and a budget van, and you paid exactly what it was worth, then I do not have any issues at all with that. Well, as long as it's been built to regulation. I have said many, many times, it doesn't matter what you drive. It's about the lifestyle, the experiences which we can have, and the people who we can share it with. Whether you have a new van or an old van, it doesn't really matter. It's about enjoying it. Like this here, I've only got a Kombi at the moment, which, yes, I'm actually selling it like I discussed in a couple of videos ago. But you can see I've got in here, I've got my toilet. You don't get toilets in camper vans. I've got my fridge freezer. I've had my bike in there earlier. I've had golf clubs in there. It's just a versatile van. I can do all sorts with it. I've actually got wetsuits and dry robes and things like that poking through there. That's going to be getting a lot of use in the next few weeks because I can sleep in it as well, eating it and cooking it. It's a Kombi. It's not a full camper van conversion. Some people don't need one, but over the next few months, that might be something which we're going to investigate further. And what you buy doesn't make any difference at all to me. I just want people to be informed. I want them to be making informed decisions and not to be missold camper vans. I want to reduce the number of mistakes that people are making. The internet can very easily and quickly spread false information. Take for instance the new VW California. The amount of comments which I've seen about this, such as nice Ford, Ford Transit California, Ford Wagon and lots more. And people read it, they believe it, and then they start saying it themselves. But the new California is not a Ford. It's built on the multivan platform by Volkswagen. And the same can go for the new Transporter, which is built in Turkey alongside the Ford Transit as part of the Volkswagen Ford Alliance. And this is not the T7. Confusing as it is, the multivan is the T7. Anyway, more videos on both of those vehicles in the very near future. The point is, people believe untruths and they begin to spread them. The campervan market is absolutely littered with vans that people have paid too much for. Buyers being misled into buying something that it isn't. There are currently advertisements on various different marketplaces selling full campervan conversions for DIY projects for about £2,500. These can include a rock and roll bed, kitchen units, a hob, a sink and even a fridge. Pop tops can also be seen advertised for about 1,500 quid. But with these cheap components, the cabinets and the structural components, what really is the quality of them? Have they been tested and actually passed? And that's another story for another day. When something is said to be crash tested, what was the result of that test? Has there been any structural strengthening, seatbelt anchorage upgrades? When a pop top is fitted, the majority of the roof is removed. Has the pop top which you're having fitted been tested so you know that the integrity of that structure has been maintained? Ask those questions. Make sure it has been tested and approved. There could well be nothing wrong with these cheap components and they could be a fantastic addition to your budget van, the lower cost option which you're looking for your camper van. But if these components were included in a top spec conversion which you've paid big money for, then you're not going to be too impressed, are you? But this happens and people aren't aware of it. And going back to this watch briefly, what would you pay for it? It looks absolutely great. Look at the mechanism. It's really is a nice watch. It looks and feels like it's a decent price. Well, retail, this watch is about 4,750 for this model, if it was real. Just because it looks like a good watch to the untrained eye, it doesn't mean it is one. This watch is not real. It's a copy, a rip-off of the original. And perfectly to prove my point, it's broken. It isn't built to the same quality as the real model. The knob has come off and the mechanism's broke as well, so it doesn't even work. So if someone thought that they were buying a high quality watch with high spec components and precision engineering and therefore paid top money for it, meaning quite a lot of money, thousands of pounds, then that is a real problem. That person would be paying far too much money. However, if they knew that it wasn't the high spec timepiece, it just looked like it, and they were only paying a small fraction of that price, then I guess it's okay. But I don't really condone fakes, but you kind of get what I mean. But people are doing this with vans. People are paying far too much money for vans that aren't the top quality craftsmanship. They're not the high level components, the modern technology that they think it is. They are being sold to, and they're being convinced into buying a camper van that is far from what they're actually being told. That can also even include them being misled regarding the credentials of the converter. The current list of Volkswagen qualified converters is on the website, and as of today's date there are only 6, and yet I know that there are others claiming to be so, but they are not. Check, make sure you check. There are many good people in this industry, but there's also poor ones as well. Telling the difference from them can actually be quite difficult. Like I say, certainly some talk a very good game, and I am going to try and help with that this year. I have some brilliant ideas, even if I do say so myself. Some plans to help everyone, and I do pretty much mean everyone, a wide range of budgets, styles, brands and manufacturers. If you are not subscribed yet, then now is a great time to do so. Some people have said a few times recently that I should have more subscribers, which really is a nice thing to say, but I very rarely ask people to do so. So now I am asking you to do. So please do subscribe if you haven't already, as there genuinely really is going to be some exciting things coming this year. I'm hoping to announce some of these plans in the next few weeks, just waiting for a couple of phone calls to happen, and hopefully the progress will be made. But anyway, back to today's video and the camper vans. Having a cheap camper van with cheap components could be a choice for some people, and I'm going to be showing you some good cheap options coming up in some future videos. Yeah, oops, that's kind of like one of the plans out of the bag. But if you buy a budget conversion for a budget price, if it's been built safely and in regulation, then absolutely brilliant. There are even groups on the internet to help you look out for this. Look, you can see here with an example of a cheap conversion. Now there is a situation that I do have an issue with, and that is the safety aspect. Are the camper vans built with crash tested components, built to comply with the regulation? There are many that actually don't, and I've had a van popping up on my social media this week. People are commenting very positive comments, but the van isn't as it's actually described. The description does not suit what it actually is. It does have a number of concerns, and I'm not actually going to go into them, but there is one which is very blatant, and that's the tyres are not correctly load rated. You can see here the sidewall says 93Y, and I don't know what the exact carrying capacity of this particular van is, but even if it was just a T28, the minimum should be 100, minimum. And also I'd be taking a close look at whether the wheels are also correctly rated. You know, it's things like this which kind of the untrained eye might not see, but we do see a lot on social media, examples of tyre blowouts. It happens, and it's because they're not load rated. It is something which is really important, and it's a situation that I really do have an issue with. And I fully understand that some people might not actually care themselves. They might not be bothered that the van has been built with untested components. Nothing may well happen. I am with you there. It might not happen. They might not crash, and you might never find out whether it really was safe or it wasn't. And that is your choice. Like some people just don't wear seatbelts. Some people don't wear helmets when riding a bike. But what happens when that van is sold on and the next buyer didn't really know what they were buying? They're not aware that the popped up roof was bought cheaply, untested for the actual safety. It wasn't fitted with the structural enhancements which it needed, with the massive hole just been cut in the roof. The structural integrity of the base van was removed, and it wasn't replaced by a tested pop top. The seat in the back that the new owner might be placing passengers on is just a few pieces of metal welded together, and it hasn't been tested. It might look good, but what happens if it's in a crash? And more importantly, with occupants sat on it, making a bed really strong, it doesn't mean it's going to perform well in a crash test. There has to be some flex in it. It isn't simple to do properly, and that's why these companies spend big money properly testing them, especially the ones in chassis. I'm coming on to the big mistake campervan now, but again, I won't be naming the company, the conversion company. And this is something I do get asked. Why don't you name these bad companies? Well, it's quite simple. And firstly, I'm trying to help people. I'm just doing this as a hobby, and I don't want to be getting drawn into slanging matches. And secondly, companies can change. You know, I made a video and a converter could learn something from it which they didn't know. I have done it in the past, and converters have confirmed I didn't know that, and they've learned. They might no longer be making the mistakes they were making. Now, I know it's not great that, you know, you should be expected not to be making those mistakes anyway, but people don't know about everything, because converting a campervan, it isn't just a case of finding a good joiner, a carpenter, and building it. There's heating, there's plumbing, there's ventilation, there's electrics, which consists of 230 volts and 12 volts, telecommunications, mechanics, the list goes on. There are several disciplines involved in creating a campervan, and building a safe one within the correct regulation, it does take a lot of knowledge and expertise, which not everybody has. And on the other hand, you do have companies who actually just cut corners just to reduce costs, like the one I'm going to discuss now. A man saw me at the NEC show in February, and he said that he'd wished he'd seen my video sooner. Now, the van the gentleman made a mistake buying, it wasn't horrendous, but it wasn't the best van he could have bought for his money. He paid high spec money for a budget conversion that had been sprinkled with quite a bit of glitter. The sales patter didn't truly reflect what the van was. It did have a good pop top that was approved, although the pop top bed was just a plank of wood, just a board rather than a sprung bed. And that's another thing, the amount of requests I'm seeing at the moment in groups, which topper is best for my pop top? Will it fit in there? Well, buying a van with a sprung bed in the pop top kind of negates the need for a pop top topper anyway. Anyway, I digress. The seat bed wasn't the top of the range bed as it was stated either, nor was the leather it was all upholstered in. It was vinyl. The units were knock-on edged, and more on that another day. And the units above the hob were lower than they should have been. The fridge door opened the wrong way, so it kind of opened from the front seats. So when you're actually opening it, it doesn't open into where the conversion is. So it's a lot harder to get things out of. I don't know why people use those fridges. Buy a proper fridge which is suitable for the environment which you're putting it in. The hob and sink were fine. You can't really go wrong with those. I think he said they were Dometic, which obviously a lot of them are. But do look out for some which use rubber hoses, which they certainly shouldn't. Anyway, electrics-wise, they were all functioning. But let's reiterate this point here. He was sold a top-spec van, the top-of-the-range van, and he paid top money for it. Well, the electrics had physical switches, and the control panel was certainly not one of the latest variants. The charger was not compatible with lithium iron phosphate batteries. So how is that top of the range when he bought it in 2023? It would need a new control panel, charger, etc. Replacing for him to have lithium power. Anyway, he wanted a change. Lucky him, he'd only had this vehicle for 2 years, but circumstances meant that an alternative layout was required. He had seen another new van which he liked, and he went to view it. He liked it, and he inquired about a Part X. And this is when he realised that he'd made a mistake. The company wouldn't actually accept his current van in part exchange, due to them only accepting part exchanges from certain converters. And this was a brand which they knew, and they didn't want to take it in as Part X, which really is a good example of marketing, I guess, that they knew about the brand, they knew all about the conversion, and they didn't want to do it, they didn't want to touch it. And I've heard a few companies being more selective like this as well. And I know a company that got hit quite badly with 2 poorly converted vans. They got them in, but then they needed additional costs in rectifying the problem. Maybe they should have spotted them in the first place before they took them in. But I guess that's another story. And again, it just goes to show that these mistakes can be easily made. The gentleman was left having to sell by another method away from the dealer he wanted to buy from. He told me that he lost a lot of money on it, and it wasn't what he thought that he was buying in the first place. It's not what I thought I was buying, he said. He then said that he only found my videos after the event, and he wished that he'd watched me sooner, as he wouldn't have made the same mistakes. Please don't make the same mistakes. Fact check the information. Check the Volkswagen qualified webpage if somebody tells you that the VW qualified. And if somebody says that they're NCC approved, you can check that website for that one. If you want much more information on how to buy the right campervan for you, then do subscribe, because there is some extremely good information coming very, very soon. Anyway, in the meantime, you can see some amazing vans here. Thanks for watching, take care, and I hope to see you soon.